Hello, everybody. Welcome back to WWP Live on IG. At Written Words Publishing, we envision a world where every storyteller, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to share their voice, shape narratives, and impact the world through the written word. And in this episode, we are going to interview Carmel Austin from Australia. She is the author of a anthology series. She compiled an anthology series, and we are going to discuss Courageous Voices Unlocked. In this compelling anthology, women from various walks of life come together to share their impactful stories with insight into the raw and authentic experiences of those who have endured abandonment, isolation, and challenges with self-worth. So we are going to invite Carmel to join. Welcome back.
Bit of an expert at this now. I'm going to learn not to touch it and wait till you invite me.
You live and learn. You live and learn. But that's we live and learn. Live and learn. Okay. All right. Well, let's discuss Courageous Voices Unlocked. This anthology. That's book 2 in the What's the name of the series? Journey to
Journey
Empowerment.
to Wholeness.
Journey to Wholeness. Okay.
Journey to
Yes.
Wholeness.
And that awesome cover.
My chair just decided to pop and break. Give me a second and I'll change chairs.
Okay.
I can't believe it.
Okay.
What?
Well, while Carmel is doing that, you see that painting there?
Yes.
Behind her, she actually painted the cover for Courageous Voices Unlocked. So not only is she a talented author, she's a talented artist. We heard in the last episode, she's a talented cook. She's a talented interviewer with her podcast. She has a magazine. She owns a publishing company. She is just an all around lady over there. Okay, so tell us about Courageous Voices Unlocked. What was the purpose behind Courageous Voices Unlocked?
Okay, so Courageous Voices Unlocked. When I was interviewing people for the Artist Haven, probably interviewed 20 or 30 people. People were sharing their stories with me, and I said, actually, that's part of the next book, which I felt God wanted me to speak about, empowered stories from moving from brokenness to freedom. And originally that's what I was going to call the book. And I was having one of those days where my brain was on overload and I'm in bed with the blankets over my head, and God said to me, call it Courageous Voices Unlocked. And I went, okay. So I started to look online to see Unlocked, and there were things out there and courageous and voices, and it just really aligned with what the whole theme about the book is, which you're talking about moving from brokenness to freedom. It aligned with me as a coach because, I talk about moving from striving to thriving, and then it just really aligned with I said to Stephanie, we've been talking about the next book, and when we do the next book, it'll be a lot better and we'll learn a lot more. And so, we came up with that. And so it was actually Doris who shared with me a painting, and she talked to me about, I'd shared a few pictures and different things, and her and I brainstormed together. And I came up with this painting, and in the painting you can see the angels are holding their arms up to the Lord, and then the down the bottom there's the faceless people. And, that's us. We're the ones who are grateful to God, and the angels are holding us up, and our stories are strong and they're vibrant, but they're real. And we wanted women out there to know that, that you go through hard times, but God can pick you up and carry you through, and you're not alone. And, and that was like for 3 decades. God had been speaking to me about share your story, Carmel. Share your story. It's going to help others. And I started out with Just Say No, and I talked about my infertility journey there. And then I went on into the Artist Haven, and I talked more about me as an artist and my creativity and you know, but I knew that that was just, you know, just the beginning. And then Courageous Voices Unlocked, you know, I put the call out again and I reproduced everything I did in the Artist Haven, and the grace of God, you know, I have 10 or 11 ladies who shared their story in Courageous Voices Unlocked. And actually right at the end, I coached Catherine for a year and a half or 2 years, and she never even wanted anyone to even know that she had been coached. And I asked her to write a review, and she came back with more than 3,000 words. And I said to her, Catherine, I think you're ready to write your story. You just gave it to me. And so right at the end, you know, I said to Stephanie, we're going to put Catherine in the book. And, you know, and God just gave me again the steps of where people go. And, you know, and my chapter in Courageous Voices Unlocked is called Echoes of Hope. You know, and I talk about, you know, I do talk about navigating through infertility again, because I'm introducing who I am. And, you know, and I'm introducing it more as, you know, the decades that have unfolded, like I said in the last, when we were on live, you know, my babies would be 30 now, and they're growing up in heaven. And I have 7 children growing up in heaven, you know, and I've actually had visitations. My daughter has got long red hair like her father, and, you know, and she came to me, and I know I had a funeral for them 10 years ago as well, and I named all my babies, and it's real. I have a room in heaven, and that's something when I write my own book that I'm going to talk about, that room where there's a piano and all these grand things that God has opened up for me. Because, you know, when you have this huge desire to be creative or share your gifts or be a mother, things happen to you. And so, you know, I just feel so privileged that God has given me this opportunity where I'm sharing about my story and sharing about the things in it. So along the process, you know, Melvise came into the picture, and she actually formatted our book. Stephanie found her in a group, and we've been specifically looking for someone who'd already done anthologies, understood the process, because, you know, Melvise, it's not easy, is it? It's not easy coordinating people in an anthology. So when I'm doing an anthology, I am hands-on, following everything up. When we did the Artist Haven, Stephanie did a lot of the editing, but she wasn't the official editor. So with the Courageous Voices Unlocked, she stepped up to become the official editor, which was such a blessing. She just pours her life into helping women write their story. She asks some really good questions. And then I've learned to do that as well. So, you know, with Shona Robin, she paid the extra to get the coaching. So I offer coaching as well with my authors who have never written anything before. Shona Robin's story is in my magazine as well, and she does podcast shows with me too. So, you know, I love to not just write someone's story. It's way beyond the written word. It's about helping them process. It's about helping them write it down. You know, I've got authors in Courageous Voices Unlocked who have been in lots of books, like Stephanie, I think it's her 8th book, and Amanda's just put out her own book as well. And she's been in lots of anthologies as well. And I just really thank God for the journey of it all, and the things that, you know, the heritage and the unearthing and the dreams and the things that are in our hearts. And I'm really excited, you know, that this will take me to the next journey. Yes, I painted this picture, and my girlfriend Susan, who's in the Artist Haven, I did that in her art shop when it was opened. And then on the back, you can see there's a bit of a shine. I know it's a little bit hard to see. I took that off, didn't I, Melvise? And then God spoke to me and he said to me, that's the angels. That's the light of the angels. And I went, oops, okay, we better put that back on. And that was when, I was resting because I'd tripped over the ironing cord and I had bruised my knees and my feet, and I was having so much go on last year. I got pneumonia but I thank God I still got my book out. I got my magazine out. I got the stories out there. But I had to learn to slow down. I had to learn to do it at a pace that I wasn't, burning the candle at two ends. I've had to learn to go, no, I've got to go for a walk and do self-care. And I actually clean houses as well. And I find that when I go, I'm exercising and I'm not having to process. I'm not on the computer. I'm not having, but God speaks to me then. And I love cleaning these homes, especially because they're spotless. They're way more spotless than what my house is. And it's really easy. And, my mum taught me to clean and cleaning and weeding and gardening. And they just help me be able to process what's happening and how do I get through this next thing. And then I'm exercising. I'm getting out of the house. I'm not just sitting in the house. So, I'm just thankful for all of that income and all of those connections. I'm really lovely friends with my lovely lady who I clean her house in my street. She's 89. She's helped me with my quilt. She's helped me when we talk about, I go down there and have a cuppa and we talk about what's happening with my books and every step of the way she's been there for me. So I really honor older people. And I'm so grateful for her because last year my mum's sister passed away. She was 87 and she'd moved to Queensland, which is like quite a few other states. If you're in America, it's a long way away, 14 hours away. And she was such, she was like my grandmother because my mum lost her mum when she was young and she went in a convent. And so, with Courageous Voices Unlocked, that's the step for like the next thing, for me to be writing my own story, for Shona Robin to be expanding and writing her own story and her book, for me to be helping others, if they're wanting to either put their story in my next book about self-care, which we finish off with Catherine, and she shares her story as a musician and, and all the things, but she hadn't learned how to do self-care. So with just my coaching programs as a wholeness coach, I help women be able to implement self-care and not make them feel guilty and, help them not feel guilty, help them rewrite their inner story, help them be able to go, well, actually, I can't always turn up for you. I need to take some time out for me. So Courageous Voices Unlocked is like that in between where we're, honestly sharing our story. I know with Stephanie, she was so brave in sharing her story. Her chapter is called Taco Shoes and the Good News. And when she first gave it to me raw, I was like the mother hen going, no, you can't share that. But, when it came and it's in the book and it fits in perfectly, and I know she's had opportunities when she has done speaking things live and in small groups. She's been able to share a little bit more her story about that, as a young girl and the things that she looked for in love. And then, with Shona Robin, she was adopted, and then her story and how it's unfolded and how God has, when we first started coaching, Shona couldn't cry. And I remember crying and she said to me, thank you for crying for me. Now, God has given her her own unit. She's growing and she's crying and she's talking. She's come and done a couple of lives with me. She's writing a story down. She's helping others and she's, and I just love seeing all of my authors bloom. I love that whole connection with them and where God is taking me with them. And then I think about Cindy. Cindy is a lovely lady who actually owns a quilting shop, and Deanne brought her in. Deanne, Doris, Stephanie and I are all in the Artist Haven, and then we've written our story in Courageous Voices Unlocked. And, you know, Cindy lost her husband only, like, I think early last year or the year before. But Cynthia shares this really heartwarming story about don't let your dreams go by, things that happened in her young years. And she told me then she wasn't ready to talk about her loss of her husband, and that's okay. So, you know, through the process, you know, I'm talking to the women and I'm talking to my authors and I'm helping them in that process. But in it too, it's helping me dig into more of my story, and then, you know, the journey of wholeness and all the things that, you know, God is doing in my life. And, you know, and even giving me myself that time this year to celebrate, you know, 40 years of marriage, to go away, to celebrate my 60th and be doing my, you know, my new website. And I'm so thrilled that all my books are on there and my magazine and all of those things, and, you know, and that I can add to that, because in the process of learning that, you know, I have always looked after all my websites. So, you know, the people that I signed up with my Forever website, they're still helping me, you know, getting out my emails and making sure everything's working. But it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the journey of my books and who I am as a coach, and who I am as an entrepreneur. And, you know, I look at the title after me and I just go, that's not me, that's God. You know, and my big mouth, I was always in trouble. Always in trouble for speaking when I was a little girl. But, you know, what I've learned in my 40s with Erland syndrome is I process verbally. I find it really hard to process internally. So when I go for a walk, or I go and clean, or I go and garden, that's when I can process internally. But when I'm talking, I verbalize what I say. And I was always in trouble for talking, always in trouble for saying things that were inappropriate and, you know, what adults thought. So I look at my journey and I look at, you know, turned 60 this year, and I'm just so grateful for God for all the beautiful doors that he's opened internationally around the globe. You know, I'm 4 times international best-selling author, and I just go, really, God? And look at all what you've taught me along the way, and all my beautiful stories in here, you know. Deanne shares another story in here as well about herself, and Doris as well. And I have Therese. She shares a very heartwarming story. Her mum tried to abort her. And, you know, and she survived that. And her whole life is dedicated to God and helping other women. And so, you know, in all my books, at the back of the chapters, you can connect with all my women as well. So Courageous Voices Unlocked, with painting the cover, creating, you know, the whole thing, and working with you, Melvise. You know, I've learned so much to trust people, to trust that people can grab hold of your, they can grab hold of your vision and run with it. And that's what I felt too with my recent website. You know, God brought Anne along with another business that I started the last year, which I haven't had time to invest in. And she shared with me too that she had some losses of children in her family. And then she was talking to me about her mum's book, and, you know, and I just feel so privileged that people are trusting me. They're trusting me with their stories. They're trusting me that even though I haven't got it all together and everything's not perfect, I'll find the right people to help, and I'll find the right people that aligns with the vision that I have. And, you know, I've had some heartaches too along the way, you know, that we're all individuals and people think differently from each other, and you've got to let people go and you've got to let them walk on that journey. But I know the person when I was 40, I'm not the person I am now in my 60s. At 40, I didn't know how to cope with things, and I, was out there pushing the gospel and out there telling, where now I just do it in my everyday life. I've got beautiful grandchildren that God, gifted me with from the church, an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they come to my house regularly, and I pick them up from school, and how blessed am I that mother's heart is being fed, and I love to feed them and bath them and play with them, and we do art together and create together, and I've made both my grandchildren a quilt each, and my nephews and nieces as well, their children as well. So, it's a journey. It's a journey, and Courageous Voices Unlocked is that journey, and that's the next step into the next book, which I'm not even sure what we're going to call it. God will bring that, but it's about self-care.
What's the title?
Sorry.
So you haven't come up with the title yet?
No, I just know it's about self-care, and I know that, God will bring the right title along when we look at that. And we were looking at it this year, and when I started looking at what was on my agenda this year, Stephanie and I decided, no, we're going to look at it, we might start it at the end of the year, but we'll definitely do it next year, and I needed to take a breath and mark it. So, this is what I'm doing now. I'm talking about my journey. I'm talking about my books. I'm inviting people to go to carmelsgarden.com and check it out. You can see all my podcast shows. You can look at all my packages for coaching. You can buy my books. Actually, I have a shop on there as well. And like when I went to Israel in 2010, I brought home beautiful prayer shawls and jewelry. So that's on my shop too, folks. So if you're wanting to buy my prayer shawls and my jewelry, I can send parcels to the USA and Canada and Australia. And so what I've done with this website, it's just sort of brought everything in those 15 years since I went to Israel by faith. And I started to, I spent all the money that I got, I sent to the widows in Israel. And now, folks, all of my books, all of everything that I sell goes to a mission into East Timor. My cousin started it up. So, I give a donation every year to them. So my heart is always this mission is nuns in East Timor, and they help women. They come in and they help women birth their babies. And my beautiful auntie, who is 96 this year, my mum's best friend, she knits beanies and jumpers and booties, and they get sent over to those as well. So in my next magazine, it's talking about your destiny, and I'm going to have an article in there about the mission for people to be able to support it, and my beautiful auntie and what she does. And so I just feel so blessed. I feel so loved, and she's brought all my books, and my auntie Floss encourages me along the way, and I send her photos, on her phone, and she gets on and she looks at the photos, and we talk on the phone. And I feel, I just thank God for those women in my life who continue to invest in me, so that then I can invest in others, because I do have that big mother's heart. But I need to be mothered too. So, Courageous Voices Unlocked, Nick shares her story as well in there. And so there's so much in there. I may have missed someone, in both of the books, but, I like to talk about my authors. I like to talk about the journey. I love to talk about how, even in the midst of when I was coaching Catherine, my dad died, and flowers turned up at my home, and and now Catherine, she buys my signature oils. I make up healing oils for my clients as well. So there's so much depth, and I'm just so grateful for God for that journey.
Awesome. All right, you all. Well, you all go and visit carmelgardens.com. She has a lot to offer there. She has merchandise, her magazine, books, her podcast, her coaching program, all around. She's just an all around lady. So yeah, go to carmelgardens.com. check it out. And we are so grateful to have you here on WWP Live with us today, Carmel. And I'm looking forward to book 3 in your series.
Yes, yes. So anyone who wants to share their story, I'm going to be asking God now what, we know it's around self-care, so the title will come. It always does. I can see Stephanie's been watching both. And, God just brings it. So thank you, Stephanie, for tuning in with both of them. And I'm sure there's lots of other people who are watching or maybe watching later, and Mel V's has just been absolutely amazing with helping. She took so much of the load off me when we were doing the co-author book. And I was so grateful. Like, I know how to do all those things, but to have someone who's so good in design, and she got hold of my design and she worked with me. There was no complaining. She was happy to get on and do as many Zoom calls with me as well. And Stephanie, we worked together with Mel V's. So, if you're wanting to, do your book, she's fabulous at that, but she's wonderful at co-author books. And, if you're not sure we've got our course, Birth Your Book from Dream to Reality, we're helping you along the way. But, I love all these connections that God has given me. And thank you again, Mel Vives, for this incredible opportunity to have this out on Instagram and having people listen to it, because, like I said, I'm the marketing queen, and I'm so enjoying marketing what God has given me and my beautiful books and my beautiful authors, and then what's to come. So thank you so much. God bless again.
You are very welcome. Thank you, and God bless you too. And it's always awesome. It's always great to work with other publishers, to work with other editors. Like, there's enough, out there for us all. And if you need help, there's somebody out there who is willing and able to help you. And if you need assistance with formatting your book, you want your book formatted just as great as if it came from a traditional publisher, hold that book up again so everybody can see how beautiful it looks. Yes. Written Words Publishing can help you get a great looking book just like that out to the world. So thank you very much, Carmel. Yes, thank you. So that is going to conclude our episode for this evening. And we are extremely grateful that Carmel joined us all the way from Australia. And we will see you on the next live. All right, y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bless. I'm going to have to do some lives now. They're fun, Mel V's.
Yeah, do some lives. Everybody go live. All right.
All right. God bless for now. Thank you so much.
God bless you too. All right. Bye-bye, y'all.